Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I rise to provide a statement on the upcoming National Economic Summit. Mr. Speaker, sir, the coalition government led by our Honourable Prime Minister Sitiveni Rambuka believes in genuine dialogue, effective consultation, participatory governance and collective decision-making. We are a government that is here not to rule, but to serve our people and to serve each and everyone with humility and fairness. We are here to work together with our people and collectively tackle our challenges and devise solutions that benefit all of us. Mr. Speaker said this philosophy of inclusiveness in decision-making lies at the heart of the coalition government's style of leadership and governance. Since coming into government, Mr. Speaker said, we have introduced a number of inclusive decision-making structures, including the formation of the Fiscal Review Committee to advise us on taxation policies, expenditure allocations, and other broad fiscal policy issues, Mr. Speaker said. Mr. Speaker said, we have also established a Cabinet Subcommittee on Budget and an Economic Strategy Committee chaired by the Honourable Prime Minister to oversee the formulation of the national budget and coordinate our economic policy agenda. Mr. Speaker said those times are over when one or two single person will dictate the budget process and change economic policies overnight, as we saw happen in the previous government. We are, Mr. Speaker, back in a democracy. We are back in a democracy, and the dictatorial style of leadership which we experienced for the last 16 years is over. And Mr. Speaker, it's never going to come back. Yes. It's never going to come back. Yes. Yes. Mr. Speaker said, in January, as soon as we came into government, Cabinet approved the 2023 National Economic Summit to be held on the 20th and 21st of April 2023 after a period of almost a decade, Mr. Speaker said. The theme for the 2023 National Economic Summit is reshaping our future through genuine dialogue and collaboration. Mr. Speaker said the aim of the summit is to bring our people together and create a collective national vision with adequate sector policies and, most importantly, Mr. Speaker, an implementation framework for the government's plan to chart a path towards economic success. The summit has adopted a consultative and collaborative approach towards addressing sustainable development issues at national levels. By engaging various government ministries, various segments of society, including the public sector, including our opposition members, Mr. Speaker, and I can inform everyone that I have sent personal letters to all honourable members of the opposition, and I hope that they will participate in the National Economic Summit. We are also including the private sector in a big way, industry groups, civil society organizations, academia, trade unions, women and religious groups, development partners, and members of the general public. Mr. Speaker said, as Fiji moves into an era of change, engaging with all segments of society is essential to achieve the government's overarching objectives of the following. 1. Inclusive economic security, social justice, conscientious governance, political stability, indigenous people's participation in development, and environmental sustainability. Mr. Speaker said the main objectives of the 2023 National Economic Summit are: 1. To set an economic policy agenda for an accelerated economic growth underpinned by sustainable and inclusive development. 2. Deliberate and actionable framework for transformative and effective economic governance. 3. Build consensus on the imperatives for transforming Fiji's immense human capital into a nationally productive and innovative capacity that creates a secure, collective future prosperity for all. 4. Identify pragmatic initiatives to elicit economic leadership at the sectoral level, adopting a bottom-up approach to sectoral competitiveness that contributes to national economic growth and development. And finally, Mr. Speaker, to articulate the framework within which economic priorities for Fiji are set over the next 4 years. The National Economic Summit will be held over 2 days and participants will be divided, Mr. Speaker, into thematic working groups to encourage an integrated approach to addressing development challenges. The 12 thematic working groups, Mr. Speaker, are: 1. Macroeconomic management. Key growth sectors includes tourism, manufacturing and commerce, micro and small and medium enterprises, financial services, business process outsourcing, BPOs, and the construction industry. 3. Governance and reforms includes law and order, reform of institutions, and foreign affairs and external trade. Human development includes health, education and training, housing and urban development, youth and protection of children, culture and heritage, sports development, poverty alleviation, employment and labour market, and women in economic development. 5. Rural and outer island development. 6. Land-based activities, including sugar, non-sugar crops, and livestock, forestry, land resource development and management, and mineral water and groundwater resources. 7. Marine-based activities and resources. 8. Technology, includes information and communication technology. 9. Indigenous people's participation in development. 10. Water resource and waste management, includes water and waste management. 11. Transport, and 12. Energy and electricity. Mr. Speaker, each thematic working group will have a chairperson, and the role of the chair will be to facilitate the discussions of the thematic working group. The chairperson is to also provide necessary leadership for the thematic area and provide necessary networking. The chairperson, Mr. Speaker, will also ensure that sufficient time is allowed for complex or contentious issues and encourage active engagement and effective communication by all members. These thematic groups will encourage open, frank, and thorough dialogue discussions, and every member's opinion will be sought, acknowledged, and respected, and we will ensure that discussions are in line with the vision, policies, and strategies of the coalition government. The cross-cutting issues like climate change, environment, disaster mitigation and management, and gender is being integrated and mainstreamed into the different thematic areas. Mainstreaming cross-cutting issues, Mr. Speaker, is critical and requires institutional commitment. Mr. Speaker said the Ministry of Finance is playing the lead role in organizing the summit and facilitating papers, discussions and outcomes of the summit, which will feed into the upcoming 2023-2024 budget and potentially, Mr. Speaker, sir, a new national development plan in the future. As part of this work, the Ministry is currently developing a baseline strategy papers on various thematic areas which will form the basis of discussion during the summit. In addition to the thematic working group discussions, there will be 5 plenary sessions held over the 2-day summit with the following themes. 1, the state of the economy and future of fiscal policy. 2, responsive and resilient leadership. 3, universal coverage and basic healthcare. 4, research and innovation, pathways for economic prosperity. And 5, transparency and accountability, priorities for effective governance. Among others, Mr. Speaker said the key discussions around the thematic working groups will be around addressing the following issues: how to improve macroeconomic management and financial and fiscal stability, how to transition away from a largely public sector-led growth in the past model to a more private sector-driven economy. Third, what are the measures that are needed, Mr. Speaker said, to diversify the Fijian economy and create more jobs and incomes for our people? 4, how can we be improving our healthcare facilities, which are, Mr. Speaker, as we all know, in a poor and in a dilapidated state. An insufficient program for maintenance and upkeep and poor hygiene and sanitation facilities are well known. 5th, how we can address the challenges in our water sector, Mr. Speaker, and we've had a lot of debate and discussion on this. And the task for the coalition government, Mr. Speaker, is to address these challenges, which is exacerbated by aging water infrastructure, our growing population, rural to urban drift, and the impacts of climate change on our raw water sources. The summit is expected to set out strategies and to address some of these issues. 6, how can we make growth and development more inclusive? And what are the measures and incentives to be provided to increase indigenous participation in development? 7, how can we grow our agriculture sector, expand our rural economy, and support micro, small and medium enterprises? 8, how do we improve ease of doing business? And I know the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister Kamkamida is working very hard on this, and we should have more discussion how to remove the bureaucracies and lengthy approval processes to support the private sector, and other important questions of national importance, Mr. Speaker. So the outcomes of the summit will be fed into a communique which will contain economic measures, strategies on various thematic areas and sectors that is expected to chart a path towards economic recovery and prosperity. Mr. Speaker, I can inform the House that the preparations are going very well. The main venue of the 2023 National Economic Summit will be the GPH, and of the 12 thematic working groups, 8 will be based at GPH and 4 at Albert Park. And I want to thank the Suva City Council for making this available. Around 500 delegates and participants are expected to attend the 2023 National Economic Summit, Mr. Speaker. In fact, we are extremely oversubscribed, and we are trying to accommodate as many people as we can. The On the logistics side, Mr. Speaker said, the 12 thematic working groups have been finalized and invitations are being sent out and we are waiting confirmations. As I said before, invitations have also been sent to all the members of Parliament, including, as I said, the opposition members. All the ministers would be participating, other political parties, diplomatic missions, international and regional bodies, civil society organizations, trade unions, academia, women and religious groups, and many important players in our private sector. Mr. Speaker said during the economic summit, as I said, we will have a great opportunity to meet and discuss and understand the views and ideas of so many different people. And we have said, Mr. Speaker, that it is important for any government to understand that a lot of wisdom, a lot of ideas resides outside of government as well. And this summit, Mr. Speaker, is an attempt to create a very, very genuine forum so that we can genuinely dialogue and collaborate and work out how we can take this country to greater heights. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Prime Minister. And now